everyone. Welcome to the First Issue Club podcast, a weekly podcast where we discuss first issue comic books, among other things, mostly comic books. Nothing about submarines crashing, ever. I am Greg, and with me this week is my dear friend Andy Vargas. Andy, hello.
Hi, everyone. How are we doing this week?
We're doing weird because it's you and I recording remotely. This is the first time we've done this. Mike D had some job stuff come up, so we had to pivot, and here we are recording remotely.
Yeah, I had job stuff come up, and I was like, well, looks like I quit this job then.
Yeah, you've quit 15 jobs since you started this show. The dedication you have to this, it's alarming. We've been meaning to talk to you about that. But we are still committed to bringing you the comic book goodness of the week. So Andy and I quickly learned the ins and outs of Riverside, and we are hopefully smashing together an episode for you guys. We are going to cover no news this week because there really isn't too much going on. We do have a special surprise at the end of our first issue recommendations. I sat down with Kenny and Travis of Omnibus to talk about their app. It is if you haven't heard about it, I'm surprised if you haven't heard about it. It is a new digital playground for your digital comic books. It is David versus the Goliath, and these guys are super smart, super fun. They are comic book first kind of guys. They really want to make sure that we, the reader, have a premier experience on their app, and I can tell you from using it myself, it is a hell of a lot of fun, and the things that they mention that they have planned for the future only makes me more excited to stay on and support these guys.
That's so dope. I'm glad that in the wake of comiXology falling down, that digital comics have a place that they will continue on and succeed, because it seems like a no-brainer. I'm glad these dudes are picking up the slack.
Not only just like a place, but like it feels like an actual home for these comics to live at. Like it almost feels like they're like comic books. Digital comic books felt like foster kids for a little bit, like just being shuffled from one place to another. And this feels like they've found their like Danny Glover Angels in the Outfield home, and they're gonna I'm gonna live here now. I'm gonna live with you, and it's super exciting to hear Travis and Kenny talk about this stuff, because of course they want their app to succeed, but they just love comic books so much, and they love the community so much that they're just so thrilled to have a place to really showcase them and allow people who care about them to also enjoy them and feel safe that they're going to be there for a while, not just like be gone the next week because their app either crashes or whatever. So
yeah, that's
so
awesome.
Stay tuned for the end of the episode to hear my interview with those guys. But for right now, Andy and I are just going to talk about the comics of the week that we picked up that we thought were really engaging. Because just like Sue Storm, we love a good read. There, I said it, Mike D, contractually obligated to get that out of the way. The
episode over.
The catchphrase used to be "guide you through the muddy and murky waters of the comic book landscape." That was mine. The Sue Storm one was Mike D. So you can see which one stuck.
Awesome. Well, I'll go first and say the big book of the week was Distillery's first release, Devil's Cut. I talk about that over on the Patreon episode, so if you're not subbed to our Patreon, go do that, and we'll talk about Distillery, what I think about Devil's Cut, and my hopes and dreams for the future of this up-and-coming comic book company. But the other books that I read that were significantly smaller, both in size and length, were...
and price.
And price, yeah. I read Batman, Catwoman, Gotham War. This is a one-shot starting off. Gotham War, sorry, this is Battle Lines. Gotham War Battle Lines. And this is Zdarsky and Teenie Howard So the two teams on Batwoman and Catwoman are both contributing to this. This is a really interesting setup to this kind of face-off book. We had War of Jokes and Riddles. We had the I Am Bane stuff. We've had big Gotham-wide wars happen over the last couple of years. This is the first one that's really involved two people that don't want to be at war with each other.
Mm-hmm.
So the impetus here, they're in love. The impetus here is that since Batman has been gone for a while, Catwoman has kind of stepped up and decided that she is going to, in her own way, take on
the hero that Gotham needs.
Yeah. And what she's done is train all these like goons that, the Riddler and Joker and Bane and Clayface all hire these like nameless goons. She trains them to be cat burglars like she is.
Ooh.
But she gives them rules. So you have to steal from rich people, no violence, no score is worth your life or anyone else's.
No kids, no dames.
Yeah, that kind of thing, right? She gives them rules and she trains them, and violence in Gotham has gone down by like 75% as this book has kicked off. So she approaches the Bat family and says, look, I've done this. Like, I have accomplished your mission, but you have to leave us alone for this to work. You can't go beating up all these dudes anymore. And at the end of the book, something happens and Batman decides that this is not a situation that he can abide by. The Bat family
Did someone steal from him?
That is one thing that he says in the book. He was like, well, my parents were rich. You're going to steal from me.
Where's my giant coin?
But it was a really, really interesting setup to see somebody kind of take a spin on Batman's war against crime and almost get there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it's Teenie Howard and Chip Zdarsky, so you knew you were going to get a story that totally works.
Two powerhouses.
For sure. Two powerhouse creative teams. I think this little, mini event is going to be a lot of fun. I'm really, really excited about it. Of course, this was a $6 alpha book, kicking off the event, but the rest of the event is just 2 issues of Batman, 2 issues of Catwoman, and then a wrap up, an Omega or whatever. So,
well, after the tirade of Night Terrors and all 52 issues needed to buy, 6 is nothing. That's a windfall.
Yeah, exactly. So, Batman, Catwoman, the Gotham War, Battle Lines, thumbs up, would recommend. It's nice to be back in the world of Gotham because I did not pick up any Night Terrors.
I didn't either. Couldn't afford it.
Same.
I'll just wait for the Omnibus.
About to do it. There you go. What'd you read, Greg?
So I read a couple of first issues that require previous reading, and I knew that going into it. So I want to preface this to our dear listener. I'm going to talk about Kaptara, and I'm going to talk about Black Hammer: The End. Both incredible reads. Both require context to previous volumes that will make it a much more engaging read. First of all, Black Hammer: The End by Jeff Lemire and Malachi Ward. This is just like the culmination of the magnum opus of what Jeff Lemire has created with Black Hammer. I mean, from the jump, Black Hammer has been just an incredible story and like a real not think piece, but a real divulge into like what it means to be a superhero, what it means to be good and bad. Also, like what happens when you're just transported out of there and like you just have to live on some farm you can't leave, and all the characters that expand out of that. And like this is Jeff Lemire's swan song to all of his characters that he's made, and this is it. This is going to be the end. Just like Hellboy had an end, Black Hammer will have an end. That's not to say this will be the last Black Hammer story ever told, but this is how it will come to end. It's a good book. Beautiful, beautifully drawn. But if you haven't read any Black Hammer up until now, don't approach this book. Do not. There are characters in here you will have no idea who they are, and they play a pivotal role. So just go back to the beginning, and then when you finally read all that and come back and start Black Hammer the end, then you can start this episode.
Is this a one shot or is this like a mini?
No, it's gonna be I think like a in between a mini and a maxi, so a meaty. It's gonna be
like a 6 issue.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I also read Kaptara by Chip Zdarsky and Kagan McLeod, excuse me. This is like volume 2 of Kaptara, which is a previous story that Chip was writing. Very funny, very irreverent and bizarre, and it's classic Chip Zdarsky humor mixed with the emotion that we've also seen with his work that is like underlying, like bubbling underneath the surface. Alien worlds, weird characters. There is a part where the cat character in this book returns home, and the home is shaped like Garfield in his bed under the covers. And so to give you some context, that's where you're headed with this book. But it's so good. It is brilliant and it's funny and it's impactful. This is like Chip Zdarsky's like passion project. Maybe one of his passion projects. This is where he has no rules. This is where he can do whatever he wants. This isn't your Daredevil or your Batman or your whatever. This is Chip's world that he's created, that he gets to play in, that he gets to make a house that looks like Garfield sleeping in his bed. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what makes it beautiful, and that's what makes it weird and great and wonderful. Again, if you haven't read volume 1 of Kaptara, do not approach this book. Go read volume 1 and then approach Kaptara 2023. It'll make for a better read. And bonus, you get to read more Kaptara. So everybody wins.
Awesome. Cool. So other books that I read, I read the new Sean Murphy book, The Plot Holes.
Okay, let's talk about that for a second. This book had 1 million covers, and each of them was an homage to something. Yeah.
And the book itself is really an homage to all those things too.
Okay.
So this book.
Oh, folks, if you can't see the screen right now, Andy just kind of wrung his whole face with his big man hands, like he is just prepping to deliver me news that I have cancer or something. So strap in.
No, so it's really good, and I ended up enjoying it. But it starts at 100 miles an hour and just speeds up from there. Mm-hmm. It is super, super fast, laying the groundwork of this story and these characters and all this stuff. And that's not atypical for Sean Murphy stories. He doesn't like beat around the bush and slowly introduce you to stuff. So the plot revolves around this group of folks called the Plot Holes, and they live inside of a digital book library for self-publishing books, and What they have to do is go inside of the self-published books and make edits to them to improve the story, to make sure that the book gets published so that their platform doesn't disappear.
You already lost me.
Exactly, right? So like imagine if like Audible, right? The characters live in Audible and they have
Instead
to go
of in my head.
Yeah, and they have to go into your like Greg's manuscript and correct the story or improve the story to make sure that the book that Greg has written is good and gets a 5-star review so that Audible keeps going. Because if Audible goes away, then they die.
Okay.
And each one of the characters is like transposed from books that weren't good enough to save, but they pulled like a good character out.
Like there's a bad story, but there's like 2 gems in there that are worth saving. Okay.
And they pull those characters out and they're part of the team now.
This seems like a very big idea.
It is. And I also feel like I'm not really doing it justice, but if you kind of just strap in and let yourself get taken along, it kind of works.
Okay.
Like you start wrapping your head around the story and who these characters are and what's going on. Because that is one of the benefits of the book is it starts as like a day in the life of a guy, and then this stuff starts happening to him, and he's like, wait a minute, I'm in a book and you're pulling me into this whatever. Like he doesn't know what's going on. So it's being explained to him at the same time it's being explained to you, the reader, which is probably the best way to do this kind of a story.
Is he writing it or is he drawing it?
Both.
Double duty. Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Typical Sean Murphy fashion.
Typical Sean Murphy. There's a lot of cool art in this too. One of the characters is from a manga, and he explains his like backstory to the main character. And as he starts telling his story, you turn the page, and it's like 2 or 3 pages of just straight up manga style.
Okay,
inside the middle of this book. Yeah,
I do love that they're just like leaning into the different characters and the art styles that they're from. Like that's really smart.
Yeah. And I'm guessing there's going to be more of that as, you know, the issues go on. So, I don't think this is a book for everybody. It's pretty wild, pretty out there. But if you're into, I don't know, like meta commentary, like action, that kind of thing, this is probably going to be right up your alley. As I got like halfway through the book, I was like, what is going on? What is this thing? But by the time I got to the end, I was like, okay, I'm on board. Like this has me sold.
This seems like a book that is only helped by movies like Into the Spider-Verse. Like,
oh yeah,
it helps the concept become more concrete. Like, I imagine Sean Murphy went to like the publishing house and was just like, this is my version of like what kind of like a Spider-Verse thing. And they're like, gold, like, let's go with it.
Yeah. And that's a perfect way to look at it, is like, it's like a literary verse, like a book verse for self-published books.
I think I would avoid book verse at all costs.
There's so many tentacles. Why were there so many?
I think libraries should just change their names to bookverse. Interbookverse.
Oh shit. Yeah, so plot holes. I think this is out on Sean Murphy's own like
imprint.
Is it? It's on Massive is the name of the.
I thought Massive was through I want to say Image, but I'm not certain on that.
I'll pop it open and see.
Oh, he's taking it out of the bags. What if Plot Holes is worth $1 million? He just took it out of the bag.
Massive Publishing is its own. Yeah. his imprint is called Gear Shift. So
look at that.
Some kind of small indie, but I don't know. This is the first one I've read, and it's good. I like it.
Okay. Good job, Sean.
The last book that I read is one that I kind of want to talk about for a second because it's actually not the first time I've read this book. So I bought it. It's called Mother Russia. It's by a guy named Jeff McComsey.
Mm-hmm.
So I got this because I thought it was a sequel to a book that I read in 2015.
Yes.
Turns out it's just a reprint of that story on a new company. Because
it used to be on Alterna, right?
Yeah, that's the book I originally read was the Alterna book. And interestingly enough, the Mother Russia from Alterna is in CLZ labeled as Mother Russia Volume 2 because that story is a sequel to a one-shot that Jeff did back in 2014. And then it expanded into Mother Russia, still called Mother Russia.
Man, he's really sticking with that name.
Yeah. So then Volume 2 is that 3-issue series that I read. This is a reprint of issue 1.
What publisher?
CEX.
I've been seeing them a lot lately. I don't really know much about them.
I don't know either. I was hoping this would be a sequel to Mother Russia because I liked it a lot, but this does give me the opportunity to talk about Mother Russia because I like it a lot. It's a World War II horror story about this female Russian sniper who is stuck in a clock tower with just a sea of zombie Nazis around her. And one day in the crowd of Nazis, she spots a toddler, a non-zombie toddler. So she jumps out of her tower down and fights through the zombies to rescue this toddler and does successfully. But then ultimately comes across a Nazi officer. So she's stuck with this baby in a sea of zombies up against a Nazi officer, and chaos ensues.
Is the Nazi officer a zombie or no?
He's not a zombie.
Okay.
But it's a really cool action story. It's got a lot of heart in the later issues. Loved it the first time I read it. Loved it the second time I read it. So I would definitely recommend this to anybody. But if you, like me, thought that this was going to be, Mother Russia 2, a sequel to the story or something, it unfortunately is not. But it remains very good.
Is it the collected of all 3 issues into one, or is it going to do a 1, 2, 3?
1, 2, 3.
Okay.
So,
well, it's good that it can be in the hands of new readers again.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I'm pleased that it's coming back out. Hopefully, it finds a wider audience. So,
hopefully, it gets more issues. Maybe I don't know how it ends. So, maybe there isn't any more issues for reasons. The last 2 books that I read were Ms. Marvel, The New Mutant. This is a direct spin out from the Hellfire Gala 2023, where Kamala Khan is now a mutant, but still an inhuman. But she gets to live above ground because no one knows she's a mutant yet. So she's helping mutant refugees that are underground, trying to fight Orcus, all the while trying to figure out what her mutant power is, what her place on the X-Men is. She's having these wild dreams with this new character we've never seen before that is maybe a product of her mutation, or her subconscious trying to come to terms with who she is, or it could be some cosmic being entering through her dreams to fuck with her. I don't know. We'll find out, though, probably in this series. It's good. It's not bad, but it's again, we're getting drip fed Miss Marvel's New Mutant stuff through different series, different books. This will go all the way through Fall of X, I'm assuming, and then once that gets done, we'll find out what her new mutant power is, and it's probably turning back time. I don't know. At this point, I don't know what her new power is or if she should even have one.
It's definitely going to be the light thing that she can do in the MCU, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, and this is written by that actress. This is that
that's
book.
right.
So, yeah, and it's great first book. Like, we've read many of books where people outside of the comic book community, quote unquote, take their swing at writing. Taboo did a good job. J.J. Abrams' kid did not. So, congratulations, you're amongst the giants now.
You and Taboo.
You and Taboo swinging for the fences. It was an interesting book for what it is and what it has to be, which is like a bridge to another story they want to get to.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like it's
totally.
There's nothing meaty here because it just serves as a candy trail to the cottage where the witch is just going to throw you in the oven. So
totally.
Not bad. The covers were cool. There's a lot of homage X-Men covers, but implemented Miss Marvel in the homages. Anyway,
that tracks.
It was good. If you're on the X-Men Miss Marvel stuff, pick it up. Lastly, I got Nort's Swimsuit Edition, which is a big DC collected edition of. Actually, you know what? This book's kind of a motherfucker. I picked up the Adam Hughes cover just because it was Adam Hughes, but this is essentially a collected edition of all of the swimsuit covers that DC has done into one book. And then in the middle, there's like a story of, I think it's like the Birds of Prey or like some kind of sirens group fighting the Penguin on the beach.
Are they in swimsuits while they fight?
Yeah. Well, yeah, they're like at a beach party. So it's like everyone's doing the beach thing. But story-wise, it was entertaining. It was a little much because it's like they added those extra pages in there of the covers of all the swimsuit variants that had come before it. You know why you got it, and it's for the covers. So don't even like. That's the only reason we're talking about this. Save some time and money and go pick it up on Omnibus.
You know, sometimes it's nice to hear somebody just validate what you already knew, though.
Mm-hmm.
I did not pick up this book, but I'm glad to hear it was everything.
Yeah, your assumptions were right.
Yep. Yeah.
Just score one for Vargas. He guessed it right.
Okay.
Unfortunately, right, Greg is an Adam Hughes shill, so he got popped. Anyway, I think that's all the comics that we're going to cover in this episode. Tune in next week for a normal one where we'll all be hanging out together again. Visit our Patreon at patreon.com/firstissueclub. We have 2 tiers. We have a $3 tier and a $1 tier. And we also have a free community where we give out a newsletter and some small little tidbits and behind the scenes stuff just so you get to know us. And if we are your cup of tea, please subscribe. We'd love to have you on there. We also have a website, firstissueclub.com. We have a couple interviews up there, a couple Kickstarter interviews. Kyle Stark stopped by and talked about Marvel Unleashed, which came out. It is a fantastic book. It had no reason to be, but Kyle Starks, if you know anything about him, is committed to characters and giving them sustenance, and he did the Lord's work with this book. So go out and read Marvel Unleashed. It is, I'm not fucking around here, folks. It is really good. And that's not because I owe Kyle Starks a favor. Like, it's a good fucking book. But that interview is over at firstissueclub.com. Andy, do you have anything else you want to say?
Bag and boredom.
Bag and boredom. Okay. Guys, next week we will see you. Enjoy this interview with Kenny and Travis from Omnibus, and be safe out there. Bye. Hey everyone, welcome to First Issue Club. This is your friendly neighborhood Greg. Here with a special segment, I have 2 fantastic bearded gentlemen joining me today to talk about their new and hottest digital app, Omnibus, that is showcasing all the comic books that you love and all the comic books that we talk about on First Issue Club. I am here with Kenny Myers and Travis Cheshmeyer. Travis, I know I was going to say your name wrong, so I apologize. With the last name is Lichtai, I know that the first day of school is never easy.
Yeah.
So
Schmeisser. It's okay.
Travis Schmisser.
Thank you very much. Guys, thanks for joining us. I know you guys are very busy with collecting publishers. It seems like every day, like Thanos collects Infinity Stones. So I've got to imagine you're pretty pleased with the response you've been getting, not only from publishers, but from fans. So congratulations. Let's start that off. No worries. So you guys met through the tech business. You guys have known each other for a while, and when the Zoom meeting stopped with the tech talk, you guys would talk comics, and you would go back and forth about when's the best in the new digital playground for digital comics going to finally show up, and when Comixology, the premier one, started to tailspin and burn out. Was that the moment where you're just like, now's our time to get after it, or talk me through that?
It was actually a little bit later. We only by a couple months. We had been talking about doing something together for a long time, and had always kicked around the idea of doing something with comics. And we had both decided to leave our jobs and team up. We were going to build some B2B SaaS software, so little small business tools. And we'd actually kicked off working on one of them. And I think we kind of worked on that for like a month or 2 months, maybe, Kenny. And then we just kind of, like you said, kept talking about the Comixology and how sad we were about it, and just what a bummer it was. So we just kind of found that we were spending so much energy thinking about and spending time there that Kenny one day was just like, I think we should look into this more, and kind of brought it back up. And we just started kind of looking into it, researching, and here we are.
Yeah, our relationship was essentially built on two things, because I've always lived on the West Coast and Travis has always been on the East Coast. And it was essentially just built around, one, we should build something. We need to leave our jobs and build something. And then the second thing was, but also I read this amazing comic by this. Have you read this guy named Tom King? Or like, we started digitally, and so we would share things that way. And obviously, it would just be links to Comixology for us for a little bit, and then it eventually, it was a sad day. I just stopped reading comics for a while because of the transition. So it was always top of mind with us, because it was one of the things that bonded us many thousands of miles, Travis, many lovely thousands of miles. And it was, I don't know, it just felt like the right time. It just really, truly felt like what are we doing? We need to do this. We want to do this, and we think we can do this. We have enough hubris to think that we can do this. Let's try.
I mean, we did see it as like an opportunity, like knowing, like it would have been too tough, we think, to peel off customers, a year or two before. They had all the publishers, even though we don't think they necessarily helped with discovery or were really like pushing digital comics forward in any way. Right. It was kind of good enough, and they had everything, but that sort of, we think, made an opening, and that we were like, I think, if we're going to try it now, now's the time to give it a go, kind of. So it did spiral into being the reason, like the catalyst, kind of.
I love that. It's like you guys are just like kind of the epitome of like two friends who talk about opening a bar, and then just like every time we get together, like, we're going to open this bar. I swear to God, we're going to open this bar. And then, here you are. To quote unquote, this is your bar of like Omnibus, the digital playground, and it is, from what I've seen, been such a huge and fantastic reaction to this app from fans who have just been clamoring for a new way and a new place to go get digital comics. You guys talk about how Comixology essentially made it easy for people not to read comics anymore. They just really just shuttered the doors pretty quickly on that. And I think you're right, Travis, when you said they weren't really pushing innovation with their app anymore. They just kind of let it go by the wayside. So I'm kind of curious with you guys, what are some things that maybe you're working on, or some ideas that, you want to build a community? I know everyone can't go to the LCS every week. So like, what are your words to those folks that still want that LCS experience, but maybe don't have one around them?
I would say we know we can't emulate that LCS experience. Like we still think that's a core part of comic book and comic book culture. But to the best that we can, you'll always know the two people running your comic book store in the digital space, and you can always email us, or you could direct message us, or whatever becomes social messaging in the future. Who knows what it'll be? It's like 700 things now. We'll be on there, and happy to recommend. And our store itself, I mean, Travis, you can talk a little about this, like the changes we're making that are more personal.
Yeah, we're I think like long term, we've got a bunch of different kind of phases we want to work through to get to. Like right now, we actually decided to front load more of the kind of cross-platform stuff. So we're actually spreading now to every platform. We knew we were going to eventually, but we had some discovery features we were kind of working on earlier, or planning on working on earlier, that we switched up. So it's kind of like Be Everywhere is the one we're working on now. And then, there are some store changes that we're working in alongside working on iPhone, just to kind of make discovery a bit better. So you'll be able to like see series per publisher, sort them in different ways. There's kind of like little browsing enhancements that we just had to skip to get to launch,
Sure.
So that we're getting to now. So there's kind of like, we just think of them as like quality of life things we know need to be done. And then, as we get through the platform work and further along, we'll start working on discovery. And we have a bunch of ideas for what we think are kind of like novel features, or things like lists, things like collections, reading order, stuff like that. That'll be the first one, and then we have a bunch more of ideas after that. So I think from discovery into like what can we do community-wise, or connecting fans or profiles, anything like that. Got a bunch of ideas. I think it's too far away to plan anything exact besides like the ideas we've kind of tossed around.
So no like chat feature where you can talk IRL with people while you're reading comics.
We have never had that on our list. I don't think ever. I think if we were to talk about where, I like your bar, like the two guys setting a bar, like if we're talking about where we are as a bar, like we're like Patty's Pub right now, and where we like to get next in our next few releases is to Cheers. Bar from Cheers. And then at the end, we'd like to be like the restaurant at the end of the universe from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. That's where we'd like to end up. But so we have a ton of work to do in that space. And we're still in the idea space for that, with some set features that we think are just kind of naturally good for comic books, and you've seen in other apps like lists that we've just constantly talked about. And obviously platforms is the big push right now.
So you guys you started out on desktop, and then you said you're expanding, or I guess you're on tablets now, and you're expanding into like the phone arena as well. Has that been kind of a hard transition to kind of shrink them down even more? I know you talked about metadata with the comics you get from publishers. Is that kind of just is it implemented in the data that you get from them, or is that something you have to do behind the scenes as far as fitting the screen?
The kind of product and like design facing stuff that's in the phone is pretty much just the interface and scaling it down. There's a couple of things that are working to our advantage there. Like our interface is pretty simple. There's some things that naturally sort of stack. When we did the first round of UI, we actually kept a lot of that in mind, like knowing that we need to translate to mobile. So I always kind of had everything in the back of my head of like, what would this be like on a phone?
Yeah.
But there's some just like natural things that converted that then we have to specialize. Like, I don't know, we have some filters that are like toggles that need to change the drop downs just space wise. So there's always like optimizations and stuff like that. But we just did like an overhaul of kind of like our component system, and that was like totally anything needed to be changed in order for mobile was done in that pass. So that's what we're working on now. But there's a lot of code we can reuse from iPad onto that. But we've got the web reader done. We decided to hold off releasing it until you could buy online. We're working on the web store. We're on iPad only right now, only on Apple platforms right now. And so no desktop yet. We probably won't ever do a desktop app, but it'll probably be a web app pretty much. What a lot of people are used to. And then like Travis said, we have a web reader done, but we're going to have it all be a big caboodle
launch, the whole caboodle.
One big mega
that's what we're workshopping that name. What do you think of the whole caboodle omnibus launch?
Caboodle,
Travis, what do you think?
It doesn't rhyme. People love alliteration.
That's just me being an idiot.
Sorry, I got a little sidetracked. So I mentioned metadata earlier, and that is, kind of the sexy side of comic books, how the information comes to you guys, and then it's kind of basically how publishers designate how much things cost and how they look. Does that also affect, from your standpoint, like if you could like run a sale on comics, or is that basically ran by the publisher itself?
A little both. We haven't actually built the sales functionality yet, though. That's another, like, we're a super tiny team, so we just have to be super strategic about what we're taking on.
Sure.
But we had that in our discussions, and our contracts cover who initiates what sales and how the breakdown works. So the answer is going to be both. Like they can initiate them or we can. Yeah, I mean, that side of it is not that sexy. Funny enough, it really is like
the most sexy side of comic books.
It was like very complicated, and we had to build a lot for it. But I mean, most people are FTPing spreadsheets and PDFs. We have some direct connections via like adapters we built, but a lot of it is like pretty low tech. Actually, it's just like FTP.
Hand crank. We hand to keep the servers going.
But we have a whole system that sucks it in, processes the PDFs, puts it in our database. We have a whole management tool for it on the back end. There's like 2 apps behind the app that you see that kind of make everything happen. Okay.
So when you guys first started launching initially, you were on, I follow you on Twitter or X or whatever you guys want to call it, and watching the slow trickle of publishers that you guys were announcing was kind of really exciting. And then, next week there was 3 publishers, and the next week it was 4 publishers. And so what is the process? And these are some of the questions that our audience has given to us. What's the process of like approaching a publisher? I'm assuming it's more than just like a well-worded email, just like, hey, trust us, we're going to be huge. Like what is the process of like approaching a publisher and being like, we're going to build this next digital playground and you're for sure going to want to be on it?
Well, first, Travis and I reveal our plumage and do a dance for the publisher and hope that they choose us. It is very different per publisher. There are some publishers, who you wouldn't expect that we're still doing the dance for. There are some publishers, like one of my favorite calls we ever had was like, we essentially cold call these people. We message them through LinkedIn. That's our secret. And we were just like, hey, here's what we're building. We built a little page explaining like what we were doing. You can't find it anymore. We took it down. And just like where we want to go. That was enough to actually get some conversations going. And then, enough of those happened and enough were signed that then there sort of becomes this like snowball effect, which is really just really nice and was so exciting for us. Like I still remember when we first got one of our like publishers emailing us and was like, hey, and like Travis and I were not even expecting that within like the first year. It's been pretty so it is like one of my favorite meetings was this publisher where we just like had emailed them. He's like, yeah, let's do this call. It's a Zoom call. We've never done any proposals in person or anything like that. And they were just like 2 minutes into the call, they're like, I'm gonna fucking do it. Literally, that was their language. Like, it doesn't make any sense not to do it. I mean, it's nothing off our backs, and then you make us money. It was very funny and like totally unexpected. And then some people like, it's a couple calls and understandable. Like the industry has had a lot of digital comics platforms. And while Comixology was the beast for a while, they have been, both skeptical or just they've been the whole range. Like Travis, you'd say like the whole range of emotions we have. No one's been angry. Everyone's
how'd you get this number?
We get a lot of like people ignore us, which is an obvious like, I'm not just going to bother with them. But Travis, what's your perspective on that?
I think you said pretty much all of it. The one thing I'd add is that we did focus early days when we were doing the cold reach outs and we didn't have any or that many business deals in place. We were building the app from the get-go. So we kind of like went initially into this like demo mode is kind of what we were thinking of it as, and you could walk through most of the app, but it was just like a dummy data set. We had literally like ripped some PDFs and assets, and we basically worked really hard as fast as we could to get a usable version of like a demo of it so that we could show people that we know what we're doing. We can build a full app. It was just test data, but so we didn't have like the back end, that whole system that I was explaining. So that helped a lot. And I think we got lucky too, just our backgrounds from a lot of the companies we've worked at and the experience we both have. Like we've built a lot of stuff. So I think some of the partners were a lot more comfortable with us because of that. Like we built a little bit of everything across many industries. So it's definitely not like our first rodeo, whereas some people that had come into this before, this might have even been the first company that they ever did or product they made.
Yeah.
And that wasn't really the case for us. So I think there's a level of comfort with some of it there. It's like, I mean, we're not, we're older guys.
We're very old.
We've been doing this a while. So that helped a little bit. But I think the demo too, like we worked as early as we could to, be like, here it is. Like you can use it. And
we're actually building something, I promise.
We gave people access to it. Yeah.
So like I said earlier, that the reaction in the comic book world has been actually really, really positive, and because this is a digital platform that has really gained traction, with, like I said, with publishers, and like the interface is really great. Have you guys worked in tech so long? Have you guys heard anything from any of your tech friends or anybody in the tech business of just like, oh man, these motherfuckers are really going for it and they're making a good product? Like, has there been a resounding response from the tech world as well?
I would say that we wanted to make sure everyone knew that we were comic book fans first. We haven't really pushed out into the tech world too much because it was super important for us to not just be like a lot of tech companies are, which are just like they come into a space and like, we know the answers to all your problems. And they're like, wow. And we're just not like, we don't know the answers to all the problems. We have our own point of view as like comic book readers for what we want. And we're definitely approaching like every publisher with we have very open like channels and we do mean this. Like we respond to everyone and fairly quickly because we really want that feedback, and so we've really tried to just focus on what people are doing really great in the comic community, and learning about that and trying to learn as much as we can from every single person we talk to, be it just someone who just bought a single comic and like was like, this app isn't for me, up to someone who's like a big purchaser or a big publisher and they've been doing it for 30 years, which is unheard of in tech. Like we come as comic fans who know tech versus tech people who are trying to solve, think they have the answers to all the problems. We just, we have our preferences, and I think we're informed preferences, and we wanted the community to know we're just really grateful for how it's been received and how people are reacting.
That's awesome.
We don't have anyone or reason to attempt to draw in or impress anyone in the tech. We want to impress comic book fans and people that want to read comics.
For sure.
So we're like solely focused on that.
I guess from more of a standpoint of just like, you guys were this small little like David and Goliath of just like, you in my mind have completely conquered any other digital platform that has come before you guys, because you just are, like you have mentioned, comics first and just so earnest about it that it's kind of proving that if you are, if you believe in the product that you're doing and like just focus on the comic book part of it, you're just going to succeed with the fans foremost. And that is, to us, like just really endearing of just like, God damn it, they really want our comic books to look the best out there and like make it the easiest way to achieve and to get them. And like that's just been really nice to see about that you guys are just two gentlemen sitting in front of me who run the whole shebang caboodle. And that's just like really heartwarming for me and for our audience.
Well, that's way too generous and way too kind, but thank you.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
But we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do and a lot of things to build for other people and to reach out to other places. Like there's there's just, that is very kind of you, but I don't know how to take compliments. Anyway,
I think too, that's like one of the, we chat a lot, is like one of the hardest things is we do have limited resources and we need to move fast, and we want to like release things and get in front of people as fast as we can. So it's a lot of like just trying to pick the right thing at the right time and build enough, and like we just have to like skip things that break our hearts sometimes or delay them, and they're all tough choices, but that was all in service of like, first and foremost, we need to make an app that's really good at like table stakes basic things, like the reader needs to be great, the store needs to be easy to use, the basics of sorting your library and searching, like there was a lot of just like super basic things we needed to do. And so we just, every time we kind of came up with something that fell outside of that, we were like, okay, yes, but not right now. What else? What's the more important thing? So we just, it's like every week we just do that. We look at our list and we're like, what's the next most important thing, like for fans and for the business, and like what's going to help this the most? And we just try to like manage that day to day, and we'll get to everything eventually.
Is there something that we as like fans of comic books and as fans of Omnibus can do to like help you? I don't want to say like help you guys out, but like obviously promote on social media, use the product. Like, is there, I don't know, like a box you keep of comments and suggestions that people can drop stuff off to, or because you guys are succeeding so well, like what can we do as a community to support you more to help you achieve your final end goal?
Spread the word, tell your friends, buy comics, and definitely send feedback. Like Kenny said, you can message us anywhere you can find us. You can email us. I'm Travis and he's Kenny at omnibus.app. Anytime somebody reaches out about anything, we always respond back with whatever they need. And then like, hey, got any feedback? What's going on? What do you like? What do you not like? And so we're really open. I ran a series of interviews with early adopter people a couple of weeks ago to like look into kind of their first round experiences and what they were thinking and finding, to make sure, because just watching like stats, you can't find out everything like people think about using it. So we're trying to pay attention to that. Yeah. That
feedback actually changed what we worked on for the next month, because we were working on other things and we were like, we need to solve this problem for people. Even though, we obviously have our list of things that we know could be improved and all that stuff. And I think in general, like I will say for any app you like, not just us, although this is a very kind offer, like we feel more like vice versa, like what can we do to like boost the community, because we just, obviously comics everywhere like benefits us, like comics growing benefits us like implicitly, like we just get more people, and then people buy more comics, and more comics mean we can do more things and attract publishers that they might want. And I think that with any app, iTunes reviews are always good if you use iPad. Those are like generally those are always good. Ideally positive, but negative ones we'll respond to. And just spread the word. We have share links in our app itself. I think so you can actually share to people who have iPads, friends. That word of mouth is always killer. So yeah, like at a basic level, just reviews and sharing, and just keep giving us feedback. We're open to it. We've heard it all. Travis is a designer, so he's heard it all, plus like worse, because everyone has opinions about what he does. For me, it's just like the system doesn't work. I'm like, yeah, that's the system. But for Travis, it's like, this is terrible, and he's like, I
don't like this font.
Yeah, and they don't know what font is.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it is helpful though. It, like Kenny says, it does impact what we do, and it's also, even when there's stuff that's been on our list, it's good reinforcement where we're like, okay, we are on the right path, because we already had that up next and we keep hearing about it. So yeah, that is the next most important thing. So it's good.
I saw that you guys are headed to, I think, New York Comic Con here pretty soon. Is there anything in particular you're excited to see, or like, when you talk to creators and you're like, oh, we work on Omnibus, they're just like, holy shit, you're the guys that work on Omnibus. Like, is there anyone you approach in the comic book world that you're just like kind of giddy and nervous to walk up to?
when I went to, I'm based in Seattle. There certainly are people that we have not yet met that would probably trigger that. But when I first went to Emerald City Comic Con as like the co-founder of Omnibus, which was last year. This year. Oh my God, time is just like a flat circle. This year, and I was literally going to stand on the other side of someone who was a mutual friend, but a comic book artist. My very close friends had been close friends with him, and still on the other side of his art table, I was like, "Hey, how's it going? It's okay. Well, I'll just leave you. I'll come back, okay? Because we were literally going to dinner that night to just like hang out. So there's still there's a lot of power, and we actually, Travis and I have had to talk down ourselves before, be like, Image Comics is formative to our childhood, but they're also human beings. So, let's be human beings and not, talk about how much time we spent reading Spawn. So there are moments like that, and there's some nostalgia, and there's some there's definitely some comic book writers and artists that we want to meet. To be honest, we have things in the future that would be cool for them, but right now, we're just hey, we just love selling your comics. Thanks so much for doing this and trying to promote them whenever we tag comics on Twitter. Circling back to New York City Comic Con and your question, no, I don't know. It's per creator, and we try not to waste their time either. Travis and I are big on if they want to hang, we'll always buy them a drink. We'll always buy Tom King a drink anytime he wants. But we also, we can't offer them much right now in terms of what our app is doing, except for we sell their comics. Travis, please cut me off and stop me from talking as soon as you can.
Kenny, I think you're doing great.
You're supposed to be you're supposed to be and Kenny, that's enough.
No, but Kenny, I do agree. There's something about going to a con, and when you put a table in front of someone, it's just you can't. Your brain shuts off, and you don't know how to just talk to them like a normal human being. I've done it 1,000,000 times over to people I've talked to 1,000 times, and it's just every time I walk up to Cullen Bunn, who's a local Kansas City guy at every con, it's my mouth just loses all function, drool starts spilling out. So
yeah, great writer.
Oh man, he's fantastic.
We have a ton of his books, The Sixth Gun. That's fun, right? We just got that up because of Oni, and that. I'm excited to see that. I'm excited to read it. I had never actually. He's everywhere, but I never actually have read that. And now that he's doing more, I think he's doing a collected edition, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited to read through that. It looks awesome, and
you're gonna have a good time. I promise.
All of it. Cool. That's good to know.
Yeah, Cullen Bunn is we've kind of dubbed him the man who never sleeps because he just is always writing. And it seems like he has a book out every week, so it's I don't know. It's a great place, Omnibus, to go check out Cullen Bunn, everyone, because he is on there. I assure you. I think he has a book on every publisher.
Sure, those books a lot too. We were debugging some PDF rendering issues, and I was actually staring at those issues a lot.
I think you guys maybe mentioned it earlier about how we were talking about how Omnibus is going to roll out some things that we haven't seen yet, and I think someone says something about a list from creators or something. I think that is such a phenomenal idea because so often people get hung up on reading orders or how do I read this in a certain order, and to get these lists from either creators or fans or whatever, just here's 5 books you should just be reading, to have a place that isn't just focused on one publisher, but all publishers of just essential reading for wrestling books or books about horses or whatever. That is such a brilliant idea, and hopefully down the line it comes to fruition. But what a great way to build a community, and just a way to spread the word about new comics that people maybe don't get access to. So,
yeah, that's the plan. We think they'll be super helpful, and like you said, you rattled off a bunch of the use cases that we want to support, not just reading orders, but favorites of all time, top things you're reading now. We're gonna actually make it so you can add series creators and books to these lists. So We're going to start with them being mostly editorialized and working with partners and creators to make lists
awesome.
in there. But we're probably like at least a couple of months out. We don't really give public timelines for things because so much changes week to week.
Sure.
But yeah, it's like that's one of our next major kind of feature pushes after we get through some of the platform stuff. We're super excited about it. We think they'll be really cool. We have a bunch of more ideas to go past just regular lists too.
That was actually
that I will not
right
speak
now.
to. Yeah.
It was actually a debate about whether like we had a little bit of struggle. Speaking of like what we can do on limited resources, like we have really like Travis put together some really beautiful concepts for what like a list could be, because we've like a lot of platforms has lists. It's not a like new innovative feature. It's just like a really nice thing to have. And but we decided it was between that multi-platform, and we just decided we want more people to be able to access Omnibus. Not everyone has iPads, and most people have web browsers, and a lot of people have phones. So we're working on that. I mean, iPhone is first because that's the easiest from iPad to iPhone. And then, as we will have lists in the future, we will have Android in the future.
Rest assured,
that is
Android
important to
fans.
us as well.
Yeah, that's happening. That's next.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think we had like a funny idea of like a feature you could have for the app of just like people who were missing physical media. If you swipe too hard on the screen, the page rips.
Oh my gosh! Don't get Travis started on these.
Maybe
ideas.
that's like an April Fool's thing. You guys can.
No,
do.
he literally had a page degradation idea that he threw at
That
me.
is so funny. That is the funniest thing.
Tell him, Travis.
Travis, I'm all ears, man.
That was actually from a friend of mine. I didn't even come up with that, but he did mention like a mode where it's like the more you read a book, it like degrades. And it'd be funny if it's like the older it gets, it yellows.
Yes. That's amazing.
I also had some funny like plastic bag and board ideas of like protecting your digital content. I don't know. They would just be like cute visuals. They wouldn't be anything
That'd
useful.
Be incredible.
So
it'll
probably be a minute before we focus on that. Nobody's clamoring for that.
Well, I mean, one person is, and one's enough in my book. I mean, is there anything else before we let you guys go that you want the fans of First Issue Club to know, and the fans at large about comic books, about maybe yourselves or Omnibus or secret hidden future plans?
Yes, if you're looking for first issues on Omnibus, we do have something in Killing the Children, Volume 1. That's a good one. For people who like horror. I mean, I think the two ultimate right now, if I were to list them, Saga, Volume 1, which we're loading from the back catalog soon. And I feel like we need to tell readers about first issues you can get on here. And then there's always the Invincible #1, Volume 1, which we have. Those are when we started getting into digital comics, and now we're old. I mean, there's some new ones that are really great too. We usually post them on our Twitter feed. They're usually #1s. But
I saw that the other day, and I retweeted it. It's such a brilliant idea.
I really like. They're not too deep in to Mad Cave ones, Monomyth and
Monomyth
Exorcist Never Die. I think they each only have like 3 or 4. I think 4 issues out. So you can jump into the first issue and you won't be very behind.
Mad Cave is a publisher that's just come out of nowhere, and they've been just
they're awesome too.
A lot of really strong stuff right now.
Good people too, which is really fun. Like talking to them has been a pleasure. Like it's really nice they're just wonderful to always chat to and very chill. Also that is just such a chill guy. I'm like, his vibe just calms me down every time we talk.
I mean, I think primarily most comic book people are chill, but I'm sure you guys have ran across a few that have just been anti-chill.
No, honestly, what is interesting for us is like obviously there's the the superstar writers and stuff. We've never really run into any of them that haven't been like, they've all been kind to us, but like the back of the house people, is the surprising thing is they've been there for they're been there for forever. They stay there and they're very kind and they're very responsive, and that's been really fun learning like sort of how the sausage gets made, and also being like, I'm wondering if we can help them improve in any way with any of our knowledge. But they're they've got their well-oiled machines, and they're all good people. I don't think we've encountered anyone that has been terrible.
That's good.
No, you can tell it's fun because everybody's a fan.
Yeah,
So every business chat devolves into like books we're reading and something old that you loved, and like you can tell everybody that works inside just loves comics, and not just the ones where they work. They'll dork out with you on. So that's really fun. Like you can tell everybody just is like really into it, which is not true of. Again, between agencies and companies I've worked for, I've worked with a little bit of every industry at this point, and that's not always true inside a lot of places. So it's fun to see.
It's funny you mentioned that. When I was younger at my first con, I found out that like someone who worked for Image read DC books. And I was like, you can do that? You can read?
Yeah.
You can read other books? And they're just like, yeah, idiot. Like, get out of your 10-year-old kid. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us. I want to remind everyone, not only our first issues on Omnibus, but all comic books are on Omnibus. It's a great place to go find your digital comics and to grow as a community. Go find Omnibus on Twitter and every social media platform that there are. I won't bother listing them all because there are literally thousands, and Omnibus is undoubtedly on all of them.
Change names.
Oh my gosh. We could spend about another hour and a half about that, but I won't bore you guys. Kenny, Travis, honestly, thank you so much for joining us. We are huge fans of yours. Excited to see what you guys do in the future, and wish you guys nothing but success. Honestly.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you having us on.
Yeah,
really appreciate it. It means a lot.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
Thanks. See ya.